U.S. Bank Stadium in Minneapolis, Minnesota, one of the toughest places to play in the entire National Football League. The Skull Chants are incoming, but so are the Dallas Cowboys as they battle the Minnesota Vikings in week number 11 of the NFL season. Welcome into the Star in Frisco. This is Cowboys Pregame Live, presented by WinStar World Casino and Resorts. We've got Barry Church. We've got Isaiah Stanback. We've got a six-time Pro Bowler, Nate Newton, down there at the edge. We've also got Nick Eatman out at U.S. Bank Stadium. We'll hear from him in just a couple moments, and also Haley Sutton and our pregame crew this week. This is a fun matchup to look at. It's not necessarily an easy matchup. Let's say that one. Both teams coming in with great records. 8-1 Minnesota Vikings up at the top of the NFC Conference. And then you've got the Dallas Cowboys 6-3, but coming off a loss against the Green Bay team last week that you felt like you should have beaten. This is a place where Dallas has had success. Wins in 2016, 2020, and 2021. But why is this year just a little bit different with the Minnesota Vikings being as good as they are? Well, the Minnesota Vikings are being good, and they have a coach that I think they believe in. You know, Kevin O'Connell out there, he's doing his thing, and he's getting the most out of each and one of these players. Kirk Cousins is having one of his best seasons so far. Dalvin Cook, we know what he can bring to the table. And defensively, they might be getting up there in age, but they're still flying around the football. Well, the difference is, Kyle, last year was the 3-4 Minnesota Vikings. This year, they're 8-1 Minnesota Vikings. And these guys are a lot more balanced than they ever have been before, with Dalvin Cook in the backfield, Jefferson, Thielen, and, oh, by the way, a new Hockenson.
The main word, confidence. They're playing with great confidence. They've been in some tight games. They've been, behind? They one win. One score wins. Mm-hmm. Am I correct in that? Yeah. They've had 4 or 5 of those, but they've won by 7 or less points. When you have that type of confidence, you're great. They had a lot of one-score games last season as well. Much of those did not go in favor of the Minnesota Vikings, including one against the Dallas Cowboys. It was a 20-16 win. Dak Prescott was unavailable that week, so it was the Cooper Rush show for the first time ever. That was a tight ball game, a really kind of a game-changing, season-changing type of win for the Cowboys last year. You kind of get that feeling again this time around. But if you really look back at last week against Green Bay, it wasn't pretty. Both sides of the football had their ups, had their downs. Which side has more pressure this week, though, Barry, to try and get the job done? I'm definitely going on the defensive side of the football. All right, I understand, these guys have been getting up a lot on the ground. These are back-to-back weeks where they've given up 200 yards on the ground. But I'm talking about the defense as a whole, because last week Aaron Rodgers was still able to throw 3 touchdowns on these guys, and they were explosive plays. One for 58 yards, one for 39 yards, and then another one for 17. But this is what we haven't seen for this defense the entire year, giving up explosive plays through the air. So I think this defense as a whole needs to pick it up and get right back to that swagger that we've seen at the beginning of the season.
Well, you talking about that swagger, I'm going to flip it onto the other side. You know what I'm saying, BC? Simply because of the fact the defense has been doing a pretty doggone good job. They're 4th in the league right now in terms of points allowed against them. However, our offense has fallen from the top of the league last year all the way down to 20th in the league in terms of points scored. So they have to do their part right now. This is not a cohesive relationship that they have going on currently.
I agree with you, Isaiah, 100%. Our offense has to be much better on third downs, time of possession. They have to play with great confidence. And Dak, control tempo of the game, man. You can win this for him. Let's talk about Dak Prescott specifically. I mean, Minnesota as a defense, 2nd in the NFL in takeaways with 16. Dallas is taking care of the football, but Dak Prescott doesn't look the same as he did in his first 4 games this year as he did last year in his first 4 games. Look at the comparison. Over 1,000 yards, 71% or 75% completion compared to 63, and then the touchdown to interception ratio speaks for itself. Isaiah, when you look at Dak Prescott, where could he improve the most today against Minnesota?
I'm going to look at his ball location and his accuracy. A lot of people don't see that when they're watching the games, but I'm looking at whether it's on his back shoulder or the front shoulder, depending on the type of route concept that you're seeing. These guys need to be allowed to catch the ball and be able to continue running and get some of that yak yardage. What happens is when you're allowed to get that yak yardage, you have great ball location on the underneath coverages. You're able to take short, high precision passes and turn them into big plays. When you don't have that accuracy underneath, guys are getting tackled immediately, and now you're forced in a position where you have to take those high risk passes down the field.
Yeah, for me, I think he needs to understand not to compound issues. I mean, we looked at it last week. We all saw the 2 interceptions out there. And what he has to understand, and I'm sure he does now, if your first option isn't there, your second option isn't there, for whatever the case may be, just take what the defense gives you, whether that's dumping off to the running back. And if he's not there, just throw the football away and live to play another down.
I just agree with you there. I mean, what you have to do here, man, is have communication with your receivers, with your tight ends. You got to be on the same page. We're 8, 9, 10 games in. You should be running a perfect outfit right here, Dak. Communication is the key to this game.
And again, those wins in 2020 and 2021 against the Minnesota Vikings. Dak Prescott wasn't a part of either one of those wins. The last time Minnesota beat Dallas was at AT&T Stadium in 2019. That was one of 2 wins for Kirk Cousins, and Dak Prescott was the starting quarterback in that one. Those 2 quarterbacks face each other again this week, and Dak says there's a lot of pressure on the Cowboys to get a win, especially after last week, even saying this is as high of an intensity as maybe even a playoff game.
Yeah, that's exactly right. This is a playoff game. I mean, you got a team that's, 1 loss, right? Yeah, and then us coming off of one. We know what this means. We know what this means in the division. We know what this means in the NFC. So it's about going up there, putting our best foot forward, and making sure that we put our best performance out there and just show the team that we are in all aspects of our game.
What do you want to see as a team leader from the rest of the guys when you have a loss like that? Do you want to see them putting it behind him and moving on? You want to see him pissed off? Just what are you kind of looking for from the team this week when you're practicing?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about these guys in this locker room, this culture is you know what you're going to get. And everybody was pissed off after that game. And obviously they're pissed off for a day or 2. But you can't sit there and soak in that. You've got to obviously turn the page and make sure we learn from it. And that's what we've done. And then now we've just come out with a great attitude in these last couple of days and preparing. And we still got a couple more days to go to make sure the preparation's right for this one.
Do you feel like you need to do more or play better? Like how do you look at what you need to do?
Yeah, I mean, I'm my biggest critic, honestly. So if there's a ball on the ground, I'm gonna feel like I need to get better. Simple as that. And as far as doing more, yeah, I've got to stay within the game plan at the same sense. Yeah, there's certain times that looking back at it, yeah, I'm like, man, maybe I should have extended the play, ran or not necessarily ran, but got out of the pocket and tried to make something happen more than what was there. And so all that's going to definitely come. And just practicing it makes it pay off on Sundays.
That was Dak Prescott earlier in the week speaking on the importance of this game against the Minnesota Vikings. They need to go up to U.S. Bank Stadium in Minneapolis and get a win. And up there right now, we've got our very own Nick Eatman on the sidelines. And Nick, this is a tough place to play. The crowd is into it. Of course, it's cold outside, luckily indoors for this one. But what makes this place so different for an opposing team to come in and try and get a win?
The energy for starters. I mean, anytime you have a dome stadium, typically it can get loud. Now I know that there's been some talk that not always AT&T Stadium is that way. So, but this one, I think the fans are just very, very passionate. You hear that sound. I can't make that sound, but when you hear it, it's not a good thing typically. But and I think that there's a lot of Cowboy fans that will be here. There were last year. There will be some obviously this year. And anytime you get that kind of college atmosphere, bowl game type thing where 2 different fan bases are going at it, but there's a lot of purple, and when you have the record that they do, obviously they're not selling their tickets. They're coming out, especially for a game like this.
You're exactly right. That 8-1 record certainly adds to the pressure, I guess, for Minnesota to get the job done as well. But Kirk Cousins, Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson, so many weapons on the offensive side of the football. Is this as big of a test as we've seen this Dallas defense go up against all season long?
I think so, mainly because you're talking about one of the best running backs in the NFL and then also one of the very best receivers as well. Anytime you got that kind of combination, and they're going to see some great backs here in the second half of this season. And then in the way Kirk Cousins, distributes the ball to them, I don't think he's the greatest quarterback in the league, and I don't think anyone would argue with me there. But he does utilize his weapons, and they've got plenty of them.
Having some technical difficulties there on the sideline out at U.S. Bank Stadium. We'll try and check back in with Nick Eatman coming up here in just a couple moments. But we are joined by Nate Newton again, 6-time Pro Bowler, 3-time Super Bowl champ. And Nate, this inactive list for the Cowboys this week had a potential to be really, really tough for the Cowboys to overcome. It's not as bad as it initially looked as we take a look at the inactive list today. Quentin Bohanna up there at the top. A real unfortunate break for Anthony Barr. Played 8 seasons with the Minnesota Vikings. He's unable to make his return to face his former team. Basham there, Nashawn Wright, Marquise Bell. The good news, 3 names not on that list that could have been Ezekiel Elliott, DeMarcus Lawrence, and Anthony Brown all available. Let's start with DeMarcus Lawrence on the defensive side of the football. We were just talking about Dalvin Cook specifically. He is so dangerous, and this Dallas defense has struggled to stop the run. How much has he meant to that defense?
Everything. He's not only the vocal leader, but he knows how to set an edge on an offensive tackle and a wide receiver. So a tight end. He's great at that right there, getting his hands inside and making plays. He's good at coming off the backside and hitting people for losses. So this is big for us to have him back.
He is back, but of course dealing with a couple different ailments. He talked about it. His knees are hurting. He's got some ankle problems in there as well. If he's not 100%, who needs to step up around him?
Dante Fowler.
Okay.
I don't know how good he is versus the run, but we need him for the run. Like we mentioned, Quentin Bohanna, we need for those guys inside to step up. We have to stop the run in order to have a great chance to win this game.
Ezekiel Elliott active as well. He missed the last 2 games against Chicago and against Green Bay. It allowed for an opportunity for Tony Pollard to step up into that role. How much do you expect out of Zeke today in his first game back?
Like he never missed. He's a veteran guy. We need for him to come in, get a few more reps with him, soften up the defense so Tony can go back to his normal explosive self, and he don't have to have too many carries so he can stay fresh. And we still mix Malik Davis in there, man. We need to have a good, solid run game. We need to go for at least 130. 5.0 average, so we need to be big this week.
With Zeke specifically, the way that he has been able to wear down a defense and the way that he's been able to go through an opposing front seven, this is a tough challenge with the front seven of Minnesota. Where could they have success against Zeke, or is he going to be able to have his success?
It's inside. It's going to be with our center and guard. If they're going to have success, that's where they'll have their success at. But by the same token, we can get out on the edges and make things happen because our tackles are pretty decent, pretty good run protectors.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And Anthony Brown, the third name on that list, or not on that list for the inactives that could have been. How big is it to have him back in the fold? And it kind of seems like it might take the pressure off of Kelvin Joseph and Deron Bland.
We get on this kid a lot. We see some plays happen to him. This guy's a veteran. He knows what Quinn wants out there in that corner when he's by himself. All he got to do is just learn how to lay hands on people, and everything will be all right. That is a big get to have Anthony Brown back, probably the most important today.
Do you think that's a rotation that you'll see? Do you think you're still going to see a good amount of Kelvin Joseph and Deron Bland, or could Anthony Brown carry that load?
Anthony Brown has to carry that load. When you got Thielen on one side, Jefferson on the other, you got Hawkinson running around, you got Delvin coming out of the back. But we want the veteran guys ready to rock and roll, man.
Yeah, DeMarcus Lawrence, Ezekiel Elliott, Anthony Brown, all 3 veterans back for the Cowboys today, and that's a good thing, not seeing their names on the inactive list. About Zeke specifically, he has a lot of confidence being back in the fold after missing 2 games.
Just a little physicality, just some more physicality to our offense, and I think it's exciting to be back. Ready to go, man. It sucks sitting on the sideline.
What has that been like? You before this stretch, you've only missed 1 game because of injury. What's been the hardest part?
I'd just say the hardest part is just kind of like not playing. Just not playing. Just because I want to be out there so bad. I want to be out there with my team. I want to, do whatever I can to help us win football games. And it just sucks. It's not being able to strap it up.
Is it seeing things that you could help at, that part of it, or is it just, frankly, just missing the games altogether?
Just missing the games altogether. Just missing them altogether.
As hard as this was now, could you have been this patient earlier in your career? Or would you have, what I'm saying? Because you were always getting back out there and fighting through these things.
Yeah, I think this injury just has been different. I think other ones before, I could fight through that pain and I could, go out there and still, feel somewhat like myself and really protect myself. But I just think, this injury has been different, and it just took a little more time.
So Ezekiel Elliott back in the fold for the Cowboys this week as they take on the Minnesota Vikings. Back here with Barry Church and Isaiah Stanback. Unfortunately for the Cowboys, you thought it was going to be a homecoming for Anthony Barr this week. He played 8 seasons with the Minnesota Vikings, 495 tackles, 17.5 sacks in 98 games for that franchise. How big of a loss is he on that defensive end?
It's a huge loss because, like Nate was saying, he's one of those guys that can set the edge and kind of get guys in the right direction, funnel everything back to All's help on the inside. So it's going to be a huge void to fill with number 42 out there. Hopefully one of these younger linebackers can step up and do a good job.
Yeah, Barry just talked about how the size that you're going to miss. He's 6'5", 255 plus pounds. That's a large human being that you're going to miss at the second level, especially when your defense has been getting gashed in the running game. You can best believe that the Minnesota Vikings are going to do everything they can to try to come downhill. Damone Clark, you better buckle up, young fella.
He may be in the fold, the rookie out of LSU, filling in for Anthony Barr. Now, Barr left a linebacking core in Minnesota that still has some talent on it to this day. I mean, the way that they have played this season has been phenomenal. Eric Kendricks, Jordan Hicks, Zadarius Smith in his first season with the Vikings. This is a trio of linebackers that's going to cause havoc on this Dallas offense. What type of challenge is there?
It's going to be an extremely tough challenge because both Jordan Hicks and Kendricks, they're sideline to sideline tackling machines. And combined with both of them guys, they have 11 passes defended, so they can cover with the best of them out there. The key to me is you're going to have to get your offensive line to the second level because as good as Hicks and Kendricks are, they're undersized linemen out there. So if we can get up to that second level, get their hands on them, we can control them, I think we can have some success through the ground, but that's a lot easier said than done.
It's definitely a lot easier said than done because these guys are active, and these three linebackers don't make a lot of errors. They've played a lot of football collectively and individually, and they play as a cohesive unit. These guys are going to know exactly where their defensive linemen are, exactly what shade to play in, exactly when to read run, and how to hit the hole and come up there and fill the gap. This offensive line of the Dallas Cowboys is going to have to physically impose their will if they want to have any impact on this running game.
And it's not just the linebackers either. What about Danielle Hunter off of that second level or even off the first level? These are his season stats. This is only through 10 games so far, actually 9 games this season. 39 tackles, the 6 sacks, second on the team in that regard. Oh, and the tackles for loss have been there as well. He has been fantastic. 38 pressures this season. Isaiah, how do you slow him down?
I don't know, but I don't know how they photoshopped my arms on him.
Oh, yeah? Those are yours?
But yeah. But this dude is a physical specimen. You see it right there on your screen. I mean, he is a complete dog. You see the 6 sacks. You see the tackles for losses. He's going to cause a lot of issues on the edges for us. We're going to have to be really sure up there. And, again, you can't pay so much attention to him that you forget to work up to that next level because you just heard us talk about the linebackers.
Yeah, without a doubt. This is the only man on earth that makes Isaiah look small, okay? This is a guy that is a beast off of the edge. He makes life hard, especially for quarterbacks in the backfield. Our tackles, they're going to have their hands full with this man. He is a freak off the edge. We got to know where number 99 is at all times.
Got to find a way to continue to stay steady up front for that Cowboys offensive line. Dak Prescott has been sacked only 5 times in the last 3 games. They've allowed just 14 sacks this season, which is one of the best numbers in the NFL. Sounds like a lot, but it's really not. Now, we talked about Ezekiel Elliott a little bit earlier. We just heard from Zeke. I wanted to get your opinion on this, Isaiah, but how big is it to have him back in the fold?
It's a lot. I mean, you think about an individual who's been really a milestone, cornerstone guy for this organization. You understand when he's missing, right? When he's not there, you miss his presence. You miss just his ambiance. You miss his leadership. And then obviously you miss his production. Even though this offense has done a great job with Tony Pollard at the helm for the last few games, you still miss his physicality and his effect in the running game and in the blocking scheme when their guys decide to go to the air.
And we just talked about all those weapons on the Minnesota defense. Can he help kind of stagnate what they're able to do in that front seven?
Without a doubt, because Zeke, he's the tenderizer, all right? He wears defenses down. First quarter, second quarter, third quarter. By the time the fourth quarter comes around, they're screaming no mas. And then we see those big runs by Tony Pollard out there. So having the tenderizer back, and like Isaiah was saying, he's our 6th best offensive lineman when you talk about picking up the blitzes and protecting Dak Prescott. So to me, it's huge that we have Ezekiel Elliott back in the fold for this offense.
From one big tailback to the other, big name tailback, Dalvin Cook is still in the kitchen because he has been fantastic this season. At least 1 touchdown in the last 5 games, which is the longest active streak in the NFL. And here are his statistics throughout the season. 700 yards, 6 touchdowns. He also has a receiving touchdown there as well. Here's a list of running backs that Dallas has faced this season. Leonard Fournette, Joe Mixon, Saquon Barkley, Miles Sanders, Khalil Herbert, Aaron Jones, and of course, Dallas's defense has allowed back-to-back 200-plus yards games. But could Dalvin Cook be the toughest test for this Dallas run defense?
I think so. I mean, because I think he is a combination of what we went against last week in Green Bay. He has the shiftiness, the explosiveness, the home run ability of an Aaron Jones, but also having that power, that want-to of an A.J. Dillon. So to me, I don't know about you, Isaiah, but if our defense, especially that front seven, doesn't come with that right mentality, they're going to run him out of the stadium.
They better come with that fire, but I disagree with you in the sense that he's the best guy that they face. I believe that Saquon Barkley is more talented than Dalvin Cook. They're both beasts, but I think Saquon's just that next tier in terms of talent. He has a 931 yards on the ground this year versus Dalvin Cook's 727. Team-wise, no, I think the Chicago Bears have a more impactful running attack, and we see that in the stat line as well, as they have over 2,000 yards accumulated on the ground versus Minnesota's 963. So, with that said, I think that Dallas has seen better as an individual, and I think they've seen better as an offensive threat. So being that they've already experienced that, they just need to bring that experience to the game today.
How is he different from those other attacks? Because you mentioned kind of the one-man bands of a Saquon Barkley, but then a team attack of Chicago and Philadelphia. How is Dalvin Cook, and how does he differ from those that Dallas has seen in the past?
I think he's more durable. I truly believe that Dalvin Cook is a more durable back. You think about the talent of a Saquon Barkley. This dude can make any man miss. You know, you heard Barry say it in the past. He's one of those players that can make a man miss in a phone booth. I don't think Dalvin Cook is one of those guys, but Dalvin Cook is a guy much like Zeke, where if you try to line him up in the hole, he's going to do his best to try to run right through you. And he plays a big part in the passing game, both in the receiving end and in the blocking.
Yeah, without a doubt, Saquon, he's more that like you said, make you miss in a phone book, can make anybody look silly out there, but he'll also have his losses out there. I believe that Dalvin Cook is a much more consistent back. He's a slasher, downhill guy that kind of gets that leaky yardage where you hit him at the line of scrimmage, he'll carry you and you'll fall for another 3 or 4 yards, and it adds up over time. He's kind of like Zeke. He tenderizes that defense, and when the fourth quarter comes around, he gets these explosive runs. They're both excellent backs. I wouldn't want to tackle either one of them.
Dalvin Cook last week against a really stout Buffalo defense, 14 carries, 119 yards, and an 81-yard touchdown run where he broke it open. And, of course, like you said, that speed is next level. Once he's gone, he's gone. He's really tough to catch. Now, one guy who might be able to catch him on the Dallas defense is Micah Parsons. But where do you play Micah Parsons to help stop the run better? Do you play him at linebacker? Do you play him at the edge? It's the age-old debate. Since he was drafted with the 12th overall pick in 2021, where do you play him, Barry, if you want him to be more effective against the run?
I'm not going to lie, Kyle. I've been going back and forth with one. Do you put him at linebacker? Do you put him at defensive end? And to me, I think when this defense is running at all cylinders, when they're flying around, I think Micah Parsons is doing what he does best, and that's hunting the quarterback off of the edge. So to me, wherever you decide to put him, he's a freak athlete. He's going to be great at either position. But for the Dallas Cowboys, pick one position and let him be elite at that one position instead of crowding his plate and moving him back and forth. But if it's up to me, I'm putting him at that defensive end.
I hear what you're saying there, Barry, but I want him to be the Swiss Army knife.
Okay,
I want him to be at the linebacker position for a number of reasons. Because of the fact that when he's at the defensive end position primarily, we understand that he is an undersized defensive end.
Okay.
And being an undersized defensive end who is impacting the game in the way in which he does whenever he's present there, you're going to go after him. So teams are running the ball at him now. Teams are starting to dive at his knees. You're starting to see the physical impact of that. You see him kind of get a little gimpy. For every game, he seemingly is having a little bit of something that he's limping off the field with. He keeps playing, but he's getting beat up. So when you isolate him at the defensive end position, it's easier to target him. When you put him at his true position of linebacker, now all of a sudden he can be that Swiss Army knife that can affect things at both levels. You saw what happened last week. He got to the second line. He was playing the linebacker. He looked like a fish out of water. That's not his fault. That's because of the lack of reps that they've had at that position. But I think helps on the way. You saw the signing this week of Tack McKinley. I think that he's going to help at the defensive end position and allow Mr. Micah to be able to play at the second level.
So with that being said, how have teams combated Micah in the past? Whether he's at the defensive end spot, it's been chopping him, right? It's been going and shooting at the knees, trying to take him out of the game. If he's put back at linebacker, does that negate that strategy from an offensive standpoint altogether?
Not at all, because when he's at the defensive end position, he can only hurt you in two different ways. He can come off the defensive end position, okay, around that tight end or that tackle, or he can do a stunt on the inside. Okay, cool. You know those two things. As an offensive lineman and tight end, you have to work together to make sure that doesn't happen. When you're at the linebacker position, now I can shoot the A gap. I can come off the edge. I can scrape over the top on stunts. I'm a lot more effective from that regard in terms of the versatility I have in different areas of that line that I can attack.
So, Barry, you were talking about Micah specifically wanting to be in one spot. Pick one and save it there. Does that take away the offensive guessing, though, if you were to just put him at linebacker or at defensive end rather than maybe put him in both?
Yeah, it takes away from the offensive guessing. But like Isaiah was saying earlier, when you have him going from here to there to here to there, those reps that you need to be better at each position kind of go away. And we saw him slow down last week when he was at that linebacker position. And it wasn't his fault, just like Isaiah said. He hadn't had the reps at that position. So either way, like I said, I love him at defensive end. I love him at linebacker. But I would love for them to choose a position to put him at and let him master that one position.
It's a debate that will continue on and on and on throughout Micah Parsons' career. Now, one thing to keep in mind, last year in his first ever game against Minnesota, he did not have a sack, but he played a lot at the linebacker spot, and he had his first double-digit tackling event, 10 solo tackles against the Vikings last year. But he knows this is a tough test for him, maybe the toughest he's seen from a defensive standpoint because of the weapons on that Minnesota side.
Man, I mean, it's an extreme challenge, but we faced multiple teams that's like them or even better this year. So it's not something new to us. We just got anchored down and get ready for a heavyweight fight.
Mike said they're going to get off the bus running outside zone against you guys. Is that what your expectation is?
Sheesh. I can't say that. You know, my expectations is different than what I'm saying every week. So I'm going to just wait till I see it. You know, it's just one of them things you just got prepared of.
When it comes to the run defense over the last few weeks, you've seen it from both perspectives, both on the line and back off the linebacker position. Do you think this has been more of an assignment issue or more of a communication issue over the last few weeks?
I just think it's just it's a collective thing of just, you know, us not doing our job and executing. Not to blame. I can kind of, like you said, I see it from both sides of where things is going wrong. But at the end of the day, you know, we got to trust each other. Trust is going to be the key to everything and where we want to go. And we got to trust someone's going to be in the B gap when they're supposed to be in the B gap. We got to trust that people are going to come in the A gap when they're supposed to be in the A gap and hold the edge. And without that trust, you know, we won't go far. So we're enhancing that trust. And I even told them, I said, when you see me to the side, you know, you can play your gap. Like, you don't even got to worry about it. So that's the type of stuff that's going to make people pay faster and come downhill a lot faster.
When things aren't going the way you want for the whole defense, how hard do you take that individually?
For me, it's tough because at the end of the day, you know, whether I have 3 sacks, 0 sacks, I mean, no tackles, 2 tackles, 20 tackles, all I want to do is win. To me, it's all about winning. You're a winner or a loser, whether it's a big win, whether you contributed 1 inch, whether you contributed nothing, you're a winner, you're a winner. So to me, when stuff's in the fan and we're not doing what we need to do and things we're losing, you know, some people may not feel it, but I think everything counts in the matter of winning. And I want to be around people that want to win as bad as I do.
Stretched for like
Micah
4
Parsons
years.
knows the challenge at hand for this Cowboys defense. In back-to-back games, they have given up a 200-yard rushing attack against an opponent, both against Chicago and then last week against the Green Bay Packers. This week, they go up against another challenge with the Minnesota Vikings. And the biggest question from Cowboys Nation is, how do you stop the run? Back here with Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback, Nate Newton. We've got Haley Sutton for the first time today as well. Haley is going to represent the challenge that is Dalvin Cook, one of the most elusive running backs in the entire NFL. She's going to run right behind this offensive line. The chair that is just a little bit forward, that's your center. Then you've got the 2 guards on both sides, the tackle right here, and the tight end, strong side to this side of the formation. I will be the wide receiver. Nate Newton, of course, on the offensive line throughout his career, has now switched to the defensive line. He's gone to the opposite side of things. We've got Isaiah Stanback at the linebacker spot and DCBC Barry Church in the back there as well. Of course, he's in the secondary. So, Nate, the Cowboys defense has not been good against the run. What has been happening, and how do they fix it this week against Minnesota?
What has been happening is we've been getting out leverage. I'm, as a defensive end, should be slightly outside. I should not let this guy, my tackle, be able to reach me, because when he reaches me, that puts me in a bind and starts to create a natural lane. And then it just gives this tight end a hand. All he has to do is put a hand on my hip to turn me, and that's the natural lane. But what should be happening, Brother Kyle, is that he should be, boom, banging into him, knocking him off course, making sure this guy don't reach him once he see outside toss. He should be getting upfield, pushing this guy back, making him hesitate.
All right, and as you guys saw in the first demonstration that Nate gave you guys, all right, when that tackle and that tight end are allowed to go ahead and handle this defensive tackle, now you have this tight end working up to the next level. So now as I come down to try to pursue the run, and as I'm tracking Mr. Dalvin Cook back here, all right, I'm going to get cocked up, and I'm going to get turned again, creating another ravine for this running back to have a one-on-one isolation with our corner. It's not the greatest of situations. It's not what you want. That's the way that the offense is drawn up. But if you do what Big Nate Dogg said he was going to do and split this defense, now all of a sudden he's catching a seam right here. I'm able to track this lane, and the only person I now have to worry about is this receiver out here, and I can take on Dalvin Cook head-to-head all day long. If he wants to cut back, I have nobody inhibiting my ability to cut back, but I'm going to go ahead and finish the tackle right here.
And what has been happening on this third level, even if Nate Nune's able to split that, even if Isaiah's been able to get off of that tight end, you had that receiver coming down and blocking the MDM, which is the most dangerous man. He's going to take that guy, crack him out of the screen, and that leaves your corner, your safety, one-on-one with the running back. Now, what has been happening is these guys have been waiting for somebody else to make the play instead of stepping up and going in there and making the play themselves. What they've got to do is once that lane's open there, see ball, get downhill, make sure you force everything back into your help in there, and once they're able to do that, you'll have your linebacker, you'll have your defensive tackle to help you tackling one of the most powerful running backs in the game, which is Dalvin Cook.
Oh, man, he is so dangerous, and there are so many weapons for this Minnesota offense. That's what's really tough about this matchup overall. J-Ron Kearse knows that as well. You talk about somebody needing to step up with some guys out on the defensive side. He's one of those guys, and he knows the challenge that's at hand.
You know, he's a guy that, you know, he when he gets the ball, he can get going quick. He's very elusive, very, very efficient with his jump cuts and getting in and out of his breaks and things when he's running those routes or when he's on the edge. So just a guy like him, you have to wrap his legs because he keeps him moving on the contact, and that's what makes him a great guy. His vision is good. His run after contact is good. It's a lot that comes with a guy like that.
What's the mindset on defense right now, giving up back-to-back 200-yard games? Is it anger? Is it frustration?
It's a bit of everything. You know, to go into Chicago and those guys did what they did. You know, regardless of them being the best rushing team in the league, regardless of that, you know, we have to stop that. And then having a bye week and then coming back out and losing to Green Bay, how we lost to them, letting them run the ball up and down the field on us. You know, you should be angry. You should be frustrated. You know, if you're not, then I think we got the wrong guys on this defense. If you know you're walking around here like everything is fine, knowing how things went for us last year against San Fran, being a big reason on why we didn't advance in the postseason last year. You know, if you're not frustrated, then we got the wrong guys on this defense. If you're not mad, we got the wrong guys on this defense. And it's just all about having a sense of urgency moving forward. You know, we're 6-3. You know, the sky's not falling. But if you don't have a sense of urgency moving forward with how last week went, the week before the bye went, then you need to gut check yourself and look at yourself in the mirror.
J-Ron Kearse knows that challenge at hand, and of course, coming off of a week like they did against Green Bay, it is a huge emphasis to stop the run. Back here with Haley Sutton, back here on Cowboys Pregame Live. And Haley, this Cowboys team, of course, they've got a matchup with the Vikings today, but it is a short week after this because Thanksgiving is right around the corner. And this past week, Cowboys had an opportunity to renew an old tradition with early Thanksgiving.
Yeah, you know, Kyle, sometimes at this point of the season, you just need a break, right? The Cowboys coming off that bye week didn't quite act the way we wanted that bye week to go, right? But they took an opportunity to get back into the community last week to do something, as Kyle mentioned, they'd done for so many years past, celebrate an early Thanksgiving with those in need.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, a phrase you'll hear in the coming week as families gather from far and wide for food and fellowship next Thursday.
On behalf of the Dallas Cowboys and the Jones family, we want to wish you a very happy Thanksgiving.
And as is tradition for the Dallas Cowboys, the organization once again partnering with the Salvation Army of North Texas to help fight food insecurity, poverty, and homelessness this holiday season.
It does a lot for the players, too, to realize, listen, I'm contributing here. I'm helping somebody.
Happy Thanksgiving. You don't always understand the impact you may be having on people in the community and have that interaction.
it's special.
Yeah, I'm thankful just to be able to come and put a smile on their face and give them a shine of light in whatever their situation is.
Happy Thanksgiving. Thank y'all for coming out.
Appreciate you, Mr. Jack.
An unforgettable experience for those gathered at the table, and sharing a meal while their favorite players served with smiles meant so much to so many.
Thankful for them even coming, that they're able to take time out their day.
It feels pretty special. I've been watching them for over 50 years now.
I feel like it was great. We needed it. They needed it. And again, I think this is what it's all about, giving back.
Each week, the Salvation Army of North Texas feeds 10,000 people, with their impact felt across the community. But the players say it's the impact on their own lives, which makes it special to continue coming out every year.
It's awesome, and that's what this is about, and that's why I encourage anyone that has the platform and ability to give back to make sure that you do that, because it's very rewarding for you as well.
You see, that's what makes the holidays so special. Wins and losses, they didn't matter on Tuesday. What mattered was the connections made and the lasting impact felt from everyone in the room.
Go!
Guys, just a really special event for everybody involved. There was a lot of smiles and a lot of full bellies coming out of Tuesday's early Thanksgiving. And hopefully that meal provided a little bit of a reset for the Cowboys as they get set for kickoff against the Vikings later this afternoon. I'm Haley Sutton. Kyle, back over to you.
Thank you so much, Haley. And of course, it is always fun around Thanksgiving time. Of course, families, food. Every year my cousins get to come back in and they come and they get to share a little bit of time together. They live out of town, so I've got a bunch of family in town. Speaking of cousins, the Dallas Cowboys have a cousins that they're facing this week. Thanksgiving next week, but they've got Kirk Cousins on the docket this week. 14 touchdowns. 8 interceptions. He still gives up the picks every now and again. He's going to give some opportunities, but he's had a fantastic season to this point, but he has struggled against Dallas in the past. Only quarterbacks he's defeated, Dak in 2019, and then before that, it was Kellen Moore. He is 2-8 all-time against the Dallas Cowboys. What's different about Kirk Cousins this year, though?
Well, I think he's kind of similar than what he's been playing these past couple years. He still gives the football up, like you saw, 8 interceptions there. And similar to what Aaron Rodgers is to the Cowboys, how he kind of has their number, the Cowboys kind of have Kirk Cousins' numbers. Like you said, Kyle, he's 2-8 all-time against this Cowboys team. And I think what the key is, you got to be able to rattle this guy. And last time I checked, the Dallas Cowboys, they still have the best pass rush in the National Football League.
You know, much like Dak Prescott, I know people aren't going to like this comparison, but Kirk Cousins and Dak Prescott are really one and the same when it comes to what is necessary for them to be very impactful and effective. Kirk Cousins does not scare me when he is just able to sit back and drop back and throw the ball all day long. You don't see him throwing the ball for 40-plus times a game. It's not his thing. Much like Dak, you don't want to see Dak throwing it for 40-plus times. But if Dalvin Cook's allowed to run the ball, then he can get it to Hockenson. If Dalvin Cook's allowed to run the ball, then he can play action and get that thing to Jefferson. Oh, and then don't forget about that guy Thielen. So those are the things that worry me about Cousins. But he is this type of guy. If, like you said, Barry, if you can apply some pressure to him, he'll give you opportunities.
The thing about him is he's playing with confidence. I talked about it earlier. He's playing with great confidence, and those interceptions are not coming at key times in the game. So he's staying away from the bad play and playing and making great plays coming down the stretch. As long as he plays with this type of confidence if he has a running game, he's through. Yep. He's great. But if it does have a running game, he's through.
I was this close, Isaiah, to just getting my pen out and saying, public enemy number one, Isaiah's back. He compared Kirk Cousins and Dak Prescott together. You had good reasoning, though. Yeah. And the reason why is they both play with confidence, and they both need a running game to really establish what they want to do. Right. However, Dak Prescott dealing without a couple of his top weapons from a year ago. Kirk Cousins, it almost seemingly adding weapons. More and more guys show up every year. Justin Jefferson, of course, he has exploded onto the scene in his first 3 years in the league. Only receiver up over 1,000 yards in the NFL at this point, or in the NFC at this point. Adam Thielen on the other side, and then you've got T.J. Hockenson. This doesn't even have K.J. Osborne and what he has out of the slot. There are weapons in this Vikings passing game. How do they challenge this Dallas defense?
Well, look, Justin Jefferson, he is a complete dog out there. This guy is probably the best wide receiver in the National Football League. But last year, this Cowboys team went against him and held him to 2 catches for 21 yards. So I feel like the Cowboys have his number in such a way. But to me, the X factor in this game has got to be T.J. Hockenson. He was able to have mild success against this Dallas defense early on in the year when he played for Detroit. Since the trade, he's on a better team with a better offensive weapons around him. I believe he's with a better quarterback. So these safeties, these linebackers for the Dallas Cowboys, they've got to have their head on a swivel because Hockenson, he's a player, man.
These guys can lull you to sleep. And I say that because the running game is very effective. We know about Dalvin Cook and how much of a threat he is out the backfield. But then you look at their passing game. They have a West Coast offense. And what does that mean? That means they're running a lot of crossing routes, a lot of underneath routes, a lot of high precision passes that really draw the safeties and these linebackers towards the line of scrimmage. You accompany that with a great running game. Now everybody's playing near the line of scrimmage. And then you forget about the fact that Justin Jefferson is one of the best to ever do it in terms of going over the top. So that is a threat to these guys. You have to keep on your Q's and keep on your keys, because as soon as you get, obviously accompanied with the offensive line, now all of a sudden you have to watch over the top.
And that's where the front seven has to control the game. You have to stop the run game. You cannot let a safety walk up, because if a safety walks up, that takes away from your coverage in the backfield. We need every guy that's back there to be in coverage. So our front seven has to stop the run game.
Just the 2 receptions for 21 yards last year against the Cowboys was the stat line for Justin Jefferson. Isaiah, when you look at the Dallas defense, who's under the most pressure this week to try and shut him down like they did last year?
Man, that's a really good question, Kyle. I'm going to go ahead and say that our safeties. I think our safeties and making sure that they stay home. I just talked about how they're going to want to be a little nosy and come up in the box. Barry can probably tell you a little bit more than I can, but in terms if those safeties don't stay true to their coverages, all of a sudden you're putting Trayvon, you're putting Brown, you're putting all those guys on an island, and I don't think this is a guy you want to be on the island with.
Yeah, without a doubt, these safeties have got to make sure they keep everything in front of them. But for me, I'm going to go with this defensive line. I understand they don't have to guard Jefferson out there, but if they're able to heat Kirk Cousins up, keep him under pressure, he's going to end up throwing you a couple interceptions out there. So they've got to get after him, make life hard for him, and I think they'll throw him off his game a little bit.
And I'm going with the defensive line, too. You have to stay in your gaps. You have to stay in your lane. You have to penetrate and play on the other side of the other line of scrimmage so that these guys in the back can do their job.
Of course, the Vikings secondary as well has some units, just like their wide receiving core does as well. The Dallas wide receivers are going to go up against Harrison Smith, Patrick Peterson. I mean, Peterson, who's been around the league seemingly forever. I feel like every year it's like, okay, where's Patrick playing? It's Minnesota again. Back there with 2 interceptions already this season. And Harrison Smith's having one of the best years in the secondary in the entire NFL. So CeeDee Lamb has these 2 guys to worry about, but he had this game last week. How about 11 receptions, 150 yards, 2 touchdowns, only the 5th wide receiver in Cowboys history to have a game with all 3 of those hit at one point in a single game. So how does CeeDee Lamb have that repeat, that encore performance today?
I need him to keep that confidence about him, keep that swag about him, know that he's the number 1 option, he's the number 1 receiver out there. When we see CeeDee Lamb hitting him up with that snotty nose after every first down, that's when we know he's in his bag right now and he is balling. If he can keep that confidence up, because he is a superbly good receiver out there, if he's able to keep that confidence up and get that connection with Dak Prescott, the sky's the limit. But we need to have that confidence up and keep that body language up as well.
Win versus press. He's got the win versus press, because you best believe every time he lines up on the side with Pat P, that Pat P is a big cornerback, big, strong cornerback in this league who's been around for a while, like Kyle said, and this dude is physical. So you could best believe that CeeDee Lamb's going to get those hands put on him. Okay, he's going to get blessed at the line of scrimmage, and if he can't get off the line and can't win on those short, precise routes, then he's going to have a long day. But I think that if he can get off the line of scrimmage, he'll have a very similar game than he did last week.
Be in on rope with your quarterback. Let him know that you'll be open at all times. And even when he don't think you're open, you got to be open. You got to run the right route and have the right amount of confidence. It's like you say, it's got to be about his body swagger.
Nate, do you think his performance last week showed that him and Dak Prescott can be on the same page moving forward? Was that a confidence builder for both those guys?
It should be. It should be, because right now he is the guy. Whether we want to call him a number 1 or not, he dictates what's happened. He is the X receiver. You correct me if I'm wrong, Isaiah. He looks at him first and read coverages off of him and see what can he be open. And if he feel that he's going to be open, he's going to have the confidence to throw it to him.
Isaiah, when you look at some of the misreads that CeeDee Lamb has had throughout the last couple weeks, there's been an interception on 2, one against Green Bay, one against Chicago. Can he find a way to be more precise in his route running and his reads in order to help Dak Prescott out?
I believe so. I had an opportunity to meet with some of the coaches this week and kind of get a little clear understanding as to what's going on in terms of the miscommunication between Dak and CD. And they best believe they've had some very in-depth conversations in terms of clearing this up. So there's been more of a point of emphasis on the communication, on clearing up what those reads are versus these half coverages. They're playing last week. What the issue was, they played half coverage to one side, half coverage to the other side. They're really clearing that up up and making it seem very simple for him just to make the same decision so that they can be in continuous.
Yeah, both of these guys, communication is the key between your number one receiver and your QB1. But what Dak has to understand, just like we talked about earlier, don't compound it. If it's not there, do not force it. Dump it down or throw the ball out of bounds. Live to play another down or lean on your defense. They've been superb this entire season.
Of course, CeeDee Lamb and company trying to repeat that success. He's built some confidence off of that game last week. Here's what he had to say in the locker room this week.
Bro, he's doing things that hasn't been done, in this league, and obviously at the age that we are. And then since he's been in, he's been the best at the position, honestly. The stats approve it. And obviously coming out the week he just had, everyone saw that crazy catch. I'm a big fan of him. There's no hard feelings. It's just, we grinding. We both trying to be the best at the position, and right now he on top, and I'm a fan of it.
How have you and Dak tried to work through the communication issues you guys have had that have led to either incompletions or interceptions a few times?
Obviously, it proves that you can't do anything, just off the muscle. You got to be on the same page as your quarterback, no matter what route you're running, and no matter the stem of the route. So, just being on the same page as him is very important. He has a lot of trust in me to run my route, and I just got to do my end of the part.
On the 2 interceptions, where weren't you on the same page, or what were you seeing on those, and what were you seeing?
There's a couple route adjustments. It wasn't nothing really too crazy. Not like I ran the wrong route. It's just, the angle of departure. It's small things. So I feel like personally, us as quarterback-receiver duo, we for sure can grow. But I like where we're headed.
So a big conversation on the consistency with CeeDee Lamb. Cowboys looking for consistency from their number one wide receiver. You know who they haven't had to worry about consistency with? How about Brett Maher? Yeah, you got it right, Isaiah. A little kicker action. He's been phenomenal this season. In his return to Dallas, there was a lot of criticism around this addition, and a credit to the front office. They went out and found Brett Maher in the middle of training camp. He's only missed the 1 extra point, which, by the way, was a bad snap. It wasn't even his fault. And the only 2 misses he's had were from 59 yards. So he's been automatic anytime it's been outside of 59 yards. So he has been so good. How big of a weapon is that for your team overall to know you can rely on Brett Maher?
Yeah, without a doubt, Money Maher has been extremely consistent out there. Money Maher, I coined that. So he has been extremely consistent out there, and that is the best weapon you can have, especially when you get into these tight games, maybe even the playoff cold games. You got to get points where you can get them, and if you have a consistent kicker out there, it puts a lot of pressure off of your offense.
Well, let me go ahead and apologize in advance. If this thing comes down to a field goal opportunity and Maher's up there, I'm going to blame it on Kyle if he misses this thing.
I'm with you.
No, but in all seriousness, as a former offensive player, it is very important to know that you have a precise portion of the field that you need to get to ensure that you get points and you walk away with a successful drive. That is what he is allowing this offense to have confidence in. Kellen Moore knows I need to get to the 40. If I get to the 40, we have points on the board. That the entire offense knows that, and that gives you all the confidence in the world.
Man, just to believe that we're talking about a kicker.
Yeah.
Brett Maher, I salute you.
It's been awesome to see what Brett Maher has done. By the way, I don't write the rundowns, Isaiah. So you can't do that. You can hit up our producer, Caden Gates.
Under the bus.
Number is 903. The whole spiel, because Cowboys Nation would certainly text Caden if that's the case. Maher's been great this season. Like I said, huge credit to the front office in finding him right at really the last moment to feel comfortable with the kicker. It was between him and Jonathan Garibay in training camp, and it was Maher that emerged. And, of course, that's been a good thing for this Cowboys team. Speaking of the front office, let's go back out to U.S. Bank Stadium where Nick Eatman joins Stephen Jones.
All right, thank you, Kyle. And I'm here with Stephen Jones, like always, here, Cowboys Chief Operating Officer. And here in Minnesota, is this one of those days where you appreciate the dome? Just how
well, there's no question. I got a little bite of that weather out there when we got moving around this morning, and it does pay off here to have it. They've got the opposite problem we have. They've got a cutoff, I think, of 60 or 50 when they shut everything down.
Right.
Our cutoff there is when it's above 90. Keep everything shut. Yeah. So it is nice to have these conditions in here.
Now, when everything is shut and then it's 3rd and 9 and your offense is on the field, you can tell how loud it is. That's going to be a problem as well. But for some reason, you guys have had some success here. Why do you think that is?
Well, I just think the guys get focused in here. I mean, you got to obviously really drill down when you're having to go on silent counts and motion counts and things of that nature. But this is a great home crowd here. They got great fans. It's loud, not unlike our stadium. When it's shut, it's louder. And we'll have that to deal with today. But I do think our guys have had a great week of practice, prepared and ready to go to work.
If you were to count Minnesota's weapons on offense on one hand, is that enough? I mean, I feel like they've added the tight end. They got all these things. What is the biggest focus? Is it always stopping the run?
Well, you always got to start with that run, and of course that's been a little bit where people think they can come at us is the running game. So we've got to continue to improve in that area. Obviously, they really do have some great weapons, starting with Dalvin Cook, their running back, and then. Of course, their weapons out there at Jefferson's special, the type of year he's having right now. They're doing a great job of getting the ball to him. And so we just got our work cut out for us, but we feel like our defense will rebound well this week and ready to come to work.
Last year in your win over the Vikings, obviously Cooper Rush was the big story there. Zeke had a play in their third down where he just busted through and got a first down and showed like vintage Zeke. He's coming back this week. Do you feel like he's going to be rested and ready to go?
Yes, he brings that physicality to our game that we do miss. Obviously, Tony Pollard's done an outstanding job in the two games. He stepped up in both games and ran the ball at a high level. But we do miss Zeke's physicality, and it'll be great to have that in there in terms of really grinding the ball out, which we need to do. We need to play complementary football. As we said, keep those weapons of theirs over on the sideline, hopefully, and win that time of possession battle.
I've never been in the jungle, actually, but I think when there's lions that are mad, you want to stay away from them. Micah seems like he's kind of mad this week over the last few games. Is that a good thing for your team?
Well, I think it's a great thing. Anytime you get a player of that caliber that's even wanting to take it to another level, then that can only be good for us when he's on our team. So Micah is just a great competitor, got a lot of pride. Obviously, Dan Quinn leading that defense. They feel like they got something to come back and prove here this week, and this will be a good place to start right here. That'll be a big challenge against the Vikings.
All right, that's Stephen Jones. We appreciate you joining us. Stephen Jones, Cowboys Chief Operating Officer. Kyle, we'll throw it back to you and the crew.
Thank you very much, Nick, out there at U.S. Bank Stadium. Back here with Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback, and Nate Newton. Gentlemen, there is an opportunity at hand for the Dallas Cowboys. Right now, the Minnesota Vikings, of course, present their own challenge, but the Philadelphia Eagles, they have got a really good shot to fall in Indy. However, they just scored to take the lead, 17-16. Indianapolis has a chance with one timeout to maybe go down, kick a game-winning field goal. So Philadelphia not out of the water completely just yet. However, the Giants are losing big to Detroit. Washington did win big, so the Commanders are right on the tail of the Dallas Cowboys. So a big chance here if Indy can somehow pull that out. Of course, the Giants are down big to the Detroit Lions. For the Cowboys to gain some ground in the NFC East division, what's the key to doing just that, Barry?
You got to continue to rattle Kirk Cousins. We've seen it in the past. If you can get under this guy's skin, if you can rattle him, he will throw you a couple picks and get the Vikings up out of there. So defensive line, front seven, get after that guy, make it hard for him.
Don't turn the ball over. This is not the game to even have one turnover. I don't care if it's in the form of a fumble or interception. Let's keep this thing on the ground and let's steal this clock away, because the last thing you want is Dalvin Cook running this ball over and over again with the lead.
Make your communication key this game. Make sure everybody's on the same page. Front seven with the back five, the offensive line with the quarterback, the wide receivers with the quarterbacks, and plus Dak, you have tight ends. Use them. And then that guy y'all talk about, Money Maher, can get this thing by 1 point. Come on now.
Oh, there you go. A little prediction from Nate there. But I'm interested because everybody's looking to the outside, the secondary, the weapons, and what Minnesota brings to the table there. But you're still talking about the trenches. Why is that so important in this game?
Because in any game that's big like this right here, it's going to be time of possession. It's going to be, can my offensive line dominate your defensive line? And if so, then I can run, I can pass, and I can do anything I want to do. And, we can't forget about Turpin. Make a difference.
Oh, okay. Calling out Kevontae Turpin up there in Minneapolis as well. U.S. Bank Stadium, the Dallas Cowboys and the Minnesota Vikings. It should be a fun one here in week number 11, and we're here to break it down for you afterwards with Cowboys OT, Cowboys Game Night, and the First Word presented by Dr. Pepper. But that does it for us here on Cowboys Pregame Live. 3:25 kickoff on CBS. Jim Nantz, Tony Romo on the call. For Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback, Nate Newton, Haley Sutton, and Nick Eatman, I'm Kyle Yeoman saying so long. Enjoy the game, everybody.